There has never been a better time to acknowledge the stewards who are responsible for the health of British Columbia's crown forests. After an unprecedented wildfire season, their job is more important now than ever. We are celebrating 2 landmark anniversaries. The Federation of BC Woodlot Associations marks its 30th year, and the Woodlot Product Development Council's 20th. And we are celebrating our peak performers. Peak performers, whether through enhanced forest management and silviculture, innovative forestry practices, improved utilization, forest education, or making crown forests safely accessible to the public, are all upholding the social license and contributing to their communities. We're going to take a look back at Woodlot licensees who have been recognized by the Woodlot Product Development Council for their stewardship or contribution to BC's Woodlot program, as well as recipients of the provincial government's Minister's Award for Innovation and Excellence in Woodlot Management. We'll crisscross the province and meet the peak performers who have led by example and epitomize the spirit of the Woodlot program. We'll celebrate individuals and families from all walks of life who chose to take a small portion of BC's crown forest and care for it as if it were their own, demonstrating their commitment to long-term forest stewardship.
Let's see, I got my woodlot in 1987, and the woodlot program was a result of the Pierce report. I can't remember now, the early 80s, I think. And so it took a while, I think, for the Forest Service to get going. Generally, I think the public has been quite good in accepting the woodlot program.
The future I see for this woodlot for the Cape Mud Band is that it goes more towards what it was originally designed for in my mind, which was a training platform for bringing new band members into forestry.
We put out a pamphlet for the tourist booth with education in mind for people, because lots of public hiking trails, and including a couple in our woodlot. Yeah, the woodlot program on Quadra is just, I think, very successful.
The only reason I can do what I'm doing is because of the generations of work and that have gone into making the ranch what it is today. It started with Granite building this and into something that's a viable business, and then Dad greatly expanded on that.
We sold timber every winter to be able to develop the farm. Is what the whole idea was. That it was a market for the logs, I guess, is what it was, and I was always conscious of the timber, to preserve the timber where we didn't clear land. So I tried never to cut a tree that wasn't 24 feet long and 8 inches or so.
Yeah, I'd like to see it diversify a bit, hiking, or do kind of more tourism side, might be an interesting thing. It's more than just logging, right? It's, a lot of the neighbors use our woodlot for horseback riding and hunting and quadding, whatever it might be. So, other people are using it. It's a resource that's not just logging. It's a resource that it's for everybody, right? So
possibly part of what happened is Cliff did have a passion for woodlots. He did think it was the way to go, the small-scale sustainable forestry, the local benefit, the local input. When not so long ago, when she was talking about this, being interviewed for this and having the video about her story, she said, "I don't know if I deserve this." And I said, "Of course you do. You persevered."
Well, I think one of our main goals was to make it a place of learning, an outdoor place of learning, because for children it's so better to have hands-on, to see things in progress. we talked about the different regions of Canada, didn't we? And we talked about different areas and how in those different regions there's different weather. There's also different something else. What do the plants and trees grow in?
Different soil.
Different soils, that's right, and different weather conditions.
Given the history we had with the pine getting wiped out by the pine beetle, my thinking was we should try and plant a mix of trees. So, well, when we're going through and cutting the aspen tree down, you come along with your sandpick and give her a little bit of a bend and a bit of a hack and snap it, and you're trying not to cut it all the way off. And this one's a good one because you can see we did this last year about this time in June, and this tree is still alive. The theory is that it's not the way aspen grows, it grows as a clone and just shoots up suckers everywhere. This tree still thinks it's alive, so it's not trying to send up suckers everywhere else. We've long since reforested everything. It's probably been, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 years even since I planted the last patch that we logged out there. So now it's getting them to the free to grow state. And that's what all that aspen snapping business is about, trying to relieve the competition.
Well, 21 years ago, our annual allowable cut was 2,100 cubic meters a year.
Right.
And it was to be supposed to be self-sustainable and be good for 100 years. It was a legacy for our grandchildren.
What happened?
The mountain pine beetle came in and killed it all.
We were lucky enough to actually get some money to do some on-ground activities, and the knowledge base back then said that, yeah, it's a good idea to start spacing these sort of stands to release the trees that have the best characteristics. And I mean, it was good forestry. Nobody had an idea that the beetle could do what it's done. It was just mind-boggling.
We have to return the forest as a healthy forest before we're relieved of our obligations. How we get there is mainly on our own.
The woodlot business, you definitely have to have a wide sort of skill set, or at least develop a wide skill set that you may or may not already have. I think that the type of harvesting that we end up doing quite a bit on woodlot licenses and for woodlot licensees lends itself a lot to doing more sort of alternative harvesting and taking a different approach to forestry. Yeah, one of the most interesting things about being a woodlot licensee is that you wear so many different hats throughout the course of doing business, and you get to learn so much about the forest. You're never just a logger or a planter or a planner or a silviculturalist. You have to do a little bit of everything, and you have to learn human skills because you're constantly dealing with people in government and industry and the local community and any other stakeholders on the land. So you end up being really diverse.
The dry ones are a little foamy.
They're foamy for sure. What color is this?
Brown. Brown.
What color is that?
Brownish orange.
What do you think? Is it green?
Hey,
No.
Aiden, what color is that?
Attaboy. That's kind of a beigey color, kind of brown.
It's kind of like a brown orange.
Yeah, a browny orange. We know it's not purple, that's for sure, right?
Yeah. Or green.
Here you go,
Well,
guys.
you're
You
right.
can pass this.
I finished my degree in forestry, and when I received my professional forester's status, I was I sent the same letter out, and about 2 weeks later I got a phone call from that person was I guess managing the startup of this new company, and they were looking for a forester, and they were looking for a First Nations forester if they could find one.
Originally, when we first designed this road and first got the woodlot,
The Elk Thurston Trail here, seen behind us, as you can see people walking down, was a huge controversy for the local trail users, and they had thought that we may have a large impact on the use of the trail. So we worked with the Ministry of Forests and the local trail user groups to make sure we limited that impact, and so trail users could use it on a daily basis. And
when I say the farm, and I think that's the thing that I love about the whole Woodlot program, is it's a farm. And I believe we're farming the trees out there as well as we're farming the grass, and you're looking after the environment. It's a farm as a whole, that you look after the whole thing. And part of it is, I think, the perception sometimes that you're just going to go cut down trees, but there's a lot more than cutting down trees and living in an environment. And I always say I think we're almost a true environmentalist. We love to drink the water, fish, use the outdoors, and the woodlots give us an opportunity to do that. I think it's a great program.
Mother Nature will provide you with all the trees that you want. All you have to do is look after it. You gotta look after all the sick trees, get them out of the way to benefit the healthier trees. That's pretty good now. Yeah, before these were so.
I ask myself that too. I do it because I still enjoy doing it. I've been doing it since 1972, and I enjoy what I'm doing most of the time. I mean, there's certainly mornings when I get up and go, man, I wonder why I'm still doing this, but that's usually just because I'm stiff and sore from the day before. But I think it's something I believe in. I think I'm sort of like third generation logger, so I guess it's in my genes, and the Woodlot program fits in nicely with that. And there's quite a bit of white pine component naturally in this up here. It's probably more here than most places on Quadra. The white pine's pretty good size, a lot of it. I'm gonna hope to mill a bunch of it in my mill and sell it to furniture makers.
I'm a strong believer in that what grows out there is what's meant to be here. Where we can, we'll selectively log it and try not to wreck the other trees. I feel strongly that we can't be just sellers of logs and continue to exist.
I think also I would say a genuine effort to do things properly. You know, I think that's continued for the success of Larry's Woodlot there.
I really think that, yeah, small-scale forestry is good for communities. There's money stays in the community, and then, for instance, that birch operation we put out there, there's 6 full-time jobs out there off of 15 cubic meter a day. I mean, that's got to be a bonus to any community.
Hard work, having a goal, and the philosophy behind it is you get out what you put into it. This part here I finished logging last year. This has approximately a 60% retention. The reason I went that route is, of course, the rail grade to be considerate of the heritage values. We took everything up. Also the wildlife. We have a lot of elk and moose in this area here, and deer. This is part of an ungulate winter range, and that was part of the things we had to consider when we did our logging. We tried to leave as much understory as we could, both deciduous and coniferous. We tried to leave a full spectrum of trees out there, to young to old. Basically what we want to do was have as light footprint out there as we could.
I heard about the Woodlot program in 1984, so I went to the forestry office in Kamloops and inquired about it, and got an application, and I picked out an area behind my private land and applied for it, and lo and behold, it was awarded to me. So it was perfect ground, what they were looking for, they said. So yeah, I was pretty fortunate. My grandson mentioned to me one time that he wanted to be a logger just like me. And I sort of chuckled, you know, not knowing if he knew exactly what was involved. I mean, I employed a lot of people over the years, and local people, mostly local people, of course. So, I mean, that's very much a sense of the community.
I've been doing it for quite a long time. I did it after I came back from overseas. I started in logging within about 12 months. Spent a little time in a sawmill for a few months. Didn't like sawdust down my neck. So I went logging, and we've been doing it ever since, off and on. I think this is a good example of the kind of effort that is needed to put into a woodlot in order to make sure that it stays healthy. It will be here forever. It'll be here for our children or grandchildren or whoever takes over after me. And it also is a reliable source of some income for the local communities. We have to, unfortunately the government, I don't believe, realizes just how much value these woodlots and small tenures have for our total communities.